Now, please welcome Lieutenant General Stephen Gilland, Superintendent of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, in conversation with Kimberly Kagan, President and founder of the Institute for the Study of War.
All right, good morning. My name's Kim Kagan, and it's so great to be here today with the wonderful crowd at SCSP, and to be seeing what is going on here, both at the Exchange and at the Expo. ISW is an open source intelligence organization here in DC, and I am really thrilled to say, and just to preview, that we're going to be hosting a conversation with Ukrainian innovators tomorrow at lunchtime, with lunch, at 12:15, so I hope you'll join us then. But what we're doing today is actually even as important, which is to talk about the emerging talent that we are going to need to make our country secure. And at ISW, we have the General Petraeus Center for Emerging Leaders, where we educate lots of young folks, but nothing like what the General has at the esteemed United States Military Academy at West Point. The General's had a wonderful and distinguished career throughout the force, with lots of time in different maneuver elements, air assault, armored, mech infantry, a ranger, special operations, and then, of course, some time in Korea. But now, he has an important charge, which is actually raising the next generation of young men and women who will wear the uniform. So please, please welcome the General, and let's start talking about the next generation.
You got it, Dr. Kagan. It's an absolute honor to be here. And I am incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to lead the United States Military Academy. As we think about just a week ago on Saturday, we graduated the class of 2025, 1,002 newly commissioned second lieutenants out into our Army. And in 4 weeks from today, we are bringing in approximately 1,250 young men and women from all over the world for the class of 2029. So when we think about what that future is, it is right in front of us every single day, and it's really neat to be a part of it.
I'm thrilled to talk to you. I last taught at West Point in 2005, and the first class I graduated, I taught plebe history. The first class I graduated was the class of 2001. So it's really awesome to think about this class of 2029. So we heard earlier, actually just earlier, from the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army about the Army Transformation Initiative. And one of their key messages was that in order for the Army to maintain its edge on the battlefield, it's going to need to adapt very seriously how it fights, trains, organizes, and buys equipment. What role do you see the U.S. Military Academy providing or playing in the Army Transformation Initiative?
So the first thing is, when you follow your two bosses, the Chief of Staff of the Army and the Secretary of the Army, you've got to be careful, all right? When you have to have a good understanding of what they're talking about. And then, of course, with Admiral Paparo. When I think about our future leaders, and specifically at the United States Military Academy, we've got to remind people, we are not a university or a college. We are the United States Military Academy. And I say that because you all as citizens expect more from us. You really do. It's an integrated academic, military, and physical programs that are all grounded in character development, because our mission statement is, the core of it is to develop leaders of character for our Army and our nation, regardless of being in uniform or not. And that's what you as citizens expect of us. And fortunately for me, I get the opportunity to lead those respective efforts. Now, when we talk about, as we think about the developing young men and women to be leaders of character that are congruent with our Army values and adhere to the ideals of duty on our country. We really look, we really got to start years prior to that, them coming in. We got to plant that seed. And so when we think about recruiting, which the chief and the secretary talked a little bit about, we are out across our nation looking to identify those young men and women that have the respective attributes, those traits that we think would not only allow them to be successful at the military academy, but also to be successful leaders in our Army. And one of the challenges that I have found in my 3 years as a superintendent is that there are many people around our nation that are not aware of what the United States Military Academy or the service academies in general do for our nation. And we've really gone on, expended tremendous effort to inform and educate our nation about what the service academies are, and specifically West Point, given that the incoming class is built up primarily of nominations from congressional members in both the House and the Senate, and making sure that people have an understanding of the opportunities that exist at West Point. As we think about the development of these young men and women, and we talk about technology, we think about the advances in what we're thinking about in warfare, we have to be reminded that for leaders of character, I go back to one, you have to know the basics. Young men and women today are tech savvy. They get it. We're not worried about the tech aspect. I'm more worried about people like myself and our instructors that are adaptable in that space, so that they can relate to those young men and women that are coming in. But we've got to ground them in what our Army values are, the ideals of duty on our country, but also the fundamentals or basics of our military program. And I think that's when we think about what we look across the Army for, or across the nation to recruit. I want young men and women that have grit. I want young men and women who can, have faced adversity and that are willing to serve, which we know our younger generation today has a significant propensity to serve in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's really important as we go forward, not only in developing the leaders of character today, but I was reminded not so long ago, as we think about these young men and women, they are the battalion and brigade commanders. They are the leaders of tactical formations 20 to 30 years from now. And that 20 to 30 years goes by very fast, ma'am. I mean, I've got 35 years in the Army, and I can remember day one very vividly. So those are aspects that we take into account.
So let's talk a little bit about this generational aspect of education at West Point. I think probably few people know that West Point has such an amazing faculty, some of which are folks who are rotating from their Army careers who come back and teach, some of whom are permanent. Every now and then we've got some civilians in there doing our thing. How are you actually capitalizing on the technology nativeness of the young cadets actually to help educate upward the generations of officers who are serving?
So I would say that when we look at our academic programs, really all of our programs, academic, military, physical, and our character program, which underlines all that, it's all about immersion and what you're in all the time. And so when I think about the digital natives that are migrating to the United States Military Academy, people like myself and others have got to be willing to adapt and willing to accept input. I mean, I've got kids, So I get it all the time. I've got a 20-year-old who is like, hey, Dad, you need to figure this out. And so I always take that perspective. Now, when we talk about the ability to adapt. So when we think about this blended excellence of our faculty, which is primarily uniformed, about 75% are uniformed, and the rest, our civilian instructors, about 25%. Our civilian instructors, though, are primarily at the higher level, PhD level, and where this goes is that they have this really a depth in their respective disciplines. So when I think about our hypersonics program, yes, at the United States Military Academy, we have an undergraduate hypersonics club team. They just set the record for undergraduate two-stage rocket that went into space. Okay, broke the Kármán line, and really pretty amazing when we think about that. That came about because of the faculty excellence, the PhDs and civilian instructors that are there over time that allowed them to build upon this. We've got some work going on with directed energy lasers. Again, as we think about science, of which 68% of our cadets are majoring in a STEM-related field, they are coming with that curiosity, that desire. And now we just got to set the framework for establishing conditions for success in order to be able to capitalize on the opportunity. But that's a leadership development laboratory. Hypersonic, you put a team together. How do you build teams? In the Army, we talk about having fit, disciplined, cohesive teams. That's what they're doing as part of these different aspects of academy life. How to be on a team, how to be a good teammate, and then how to lead those teams, which is what we're expecting them to do when they graduate.
When we talk about leaders of character and we talk about developing cadets' character, there are, of course, very traditional Army values in mind. How are you thinking about the ethical education of our cadets and their preparation for some of the newer challenges that technology will be presenting to us?
So when we think about the ethical aspect, of which, again, we have core courses of which ethics are built into our core courses, we also have a center within our law department, our law and philosophy department that is centered on ethics, of which the team within that center, not only as we teach how to deal with technology, the ethics of technology, the ethics of artificial intelligence, of which our perspective, varies from the Chinese and the Russians on how to employ. When we think about our values as the United States of America and the conduct of warfare, we are immersing and really exposing our cadets through the 4-year experience that they have across multiple disciplines, but specifically everybody gets immersion in that, because when they get out into our Army, in order to be agile thinkers, critical thinkers, to deal with complex, unknown problems, we got to start exposing them to that at early on. And that's part of I call it the leadership laboratory, which is 24 hours a day at West Point, whether it's in a classroom, whether it's on a field, it's in the barracks, it's in the pool. The entire place is a leadership laboratory. I won't say a petri dish, all right, because there's some other connotations there, but the leadership laboratory exists and has existed for over 200 years there and will continue so.
One of the most interesting conversations I had with my cadets at West Point in the probably in 2003, as we went to war in Iraq, was they were actually freshmen who had put on a uniform. They were amazing young people. But they were actually thinking a lot about what the future of war would look like. What is it that you are doing to help develop cadets' understanding of warfare of the future and preparing them from our day when they come in?
Yes, ma'am. And I think when we look at, so there's a couple different things there. One is through our curriculum and the various majors. We have a core sequence of classes that all of our cadets take, so they're exposed there. And then when we think, how our cadets are going to be looking to the future, and remember, 2003 timeframe, I mean, you talk about the unknown, and as we look back, what we've done over the past few years is we've instituted some themes for the academic year. So this past year was human and the machine, the integration of the human and machine on the battlefield and how to lead through that. This next academic year is projecting lethality, which is multi-domain operations in the Indo-Pacific, actually. We've had civ-mil relations as one of our themes, and so what we do is we'll bring in a number of speakers that will come in and talk to our cadets about the topic, and like I said, projecting lethality. Admiral Paparo, who was just on the screen, was with us this past winter, who's in the sync for Indo-PACOM, and it's again exposing our cadets to all of these different things. And I'm going to come back to our instructors real quick, because when we talked about the blend of faculty excellence and those PhD instructors that are civilians, our uniformed instructors, the vast majority of them are rotating faculty that come from the operational force. So they are bringing what's happening out in our operational force to the academy, exposing our cadets to that, developing them as mentors, as coaches, as counselors, in order to set conditions for when they show up in their unit, whether that unit is in the United States, it's in Europe, it's in the Indo-Pacific, and they can start leading from the very beginning.
So we are facing, I felt in 2003 that we were facing some significant global challenges. As I look out at 2025, I guess I would have to say we are facing very significant global challenges. How is it that you are preparing cadets to be leaders and problem solvers in a wartime that may transcend theaters?
Yes. Well, so it comes back to our various programs, but what we also do is we have what's called the West Point Works, all right? It's our innovation center. And through our innovation center, which spans across the academy, we seek different opportunities to really prepare our cadets, to expose them to the different problem sets that are complex, that exist around the world. And in fact, right now, this summer, we'll send over 1,000 cadets out around the world that are working with government agencies, industry, academia, in order to get a sampling of what these complex problems are and what we think we're going to be facing in the future. And through these relationships, and again, our West Point Works Innovation Center is kind of a central node for collecting that. We are able to not only bring projects in to help solve Army problems and DoD problems specifically, but also to send our cadets out in the proverbial internship and to work projects throughout the academic year as part of potentially as part of a team effort as they think about their graduation requirements in whatever major they have, and they work on these different topics, problem sets for, I'll tell you, U.S. SOCOM, United States Army Special Operations Command, Army Futures Command, which their subordinate is the Army DevCom, Development Command. We've got ties into Indo-PACOM. I've got people that are over in UCOM. And when I say people, it's not only instructors, staff, faculty, but it's also cadets that are going out to these places and getting exposed to that. I talked to 3 cadets just a couple of days ago. They were dragging their suitcases to go to the airport to go to Europe as part of a human geography trip. Poland, all right, they're going to Poland, they're going to Germany, across, they're spending a couple weeks in Europe in order to work on some of these different problem sets that we've given them. And it's pretty amazing. I wish I could redo it all over again, quite honestly, with some of the opportunities that they get.
If you had to describe the ideal Army officer of 2035, so of 10 years from now, what combination of skills, mindset, and experiences will define that leader?
Well, I do think that 2035 is really, it's upon us. So I would even expand it out to 45, 50, and beyond. I go back to my comment that today's graduates are the battalion and brigade commanders in 2045 and 2050. And what that means they're the tactical leaders of our Army. And so first I would say, I go back to being a leader of character. That matters. It matters in our military. It matters for our nation, first and foremost. Second, I would say they're a Swiss Army knife. All right, and why do I say a Swiss Army knife? Because we've equipped them intellectually, physically, morally, emotionally with all these different tools to be able to leverage. They're strategically minded, meaning, and when we think about at the small unit level, our small unit leaders are going to be making decisions that have strategic impacts, and they've always got to be mindful of that. They have to be critical thinkers who are agile and that have the ability to adapt to an ever-changing environment and the situations, because we know that the environment is going to change. Right now, it happens to be, as we think about, AI, we think about cyber, we think about space. 20 years from now, that may be archaic. And so what is it that is the next environment? And we think about the domains that our Army leaders are going to have to be able to face as leaders of our Army and leading our nation's treasure, which are the young men and women who comprise our Army. I would also add that those leaders have to have a physical, a moral, an emotional component, because war in the future, just as war is a human endeavor, and those character traits are always factored in. Physical fitness, the ability to endure arduous environments, the ability to make decisions that, as the chief and the secretary were talking about, data-informed decisions, which really means lots of information that gets put upon you. How are you processing that? How are you, as a leader, having the ability to make good, sound decisions, but in a manner that is fairly rapid, given the information that they have? And how do you get to that? Well, at the United States Military Academy, we do it through our simulation center, which we have, the more times you get, more repetitions and sets you get at something, the better you become, right? We change up some of those scenarios so that they see something a little different, but all of our cadets are getting exposed to that. As we think about our summer training, we are building our own drones that we incorporate into our summer training, both in a reconnaissance manner this summer out at what we call Camp Buckner, our cadet summer training, but also in a logistics role also. And so, again, internally, taking these opportunities, but getting our cadets exposed to that so they have an idea of this is what it's going to take to lead our soldiers in the future, and like I said, build those fit, disciplined, cohesive teams to be able to execute our mission as the Army, which is the conduct of land warfare, seizing terrain. It's a battle of human willpower, and war will always remain that way. I use the example, Dr. Kagan. So everybody's talking about the Trojan horse raid that just occurred. Okay, that's what it is. Now think about this. Yep. I mean, the Trojan horse, and it's the Ukraine attack on the Russian bombers. All right. We've seen movies about it. It's documented through history. The Trojan horse, which is exactly what these drones in the back of semi-trailers, essentially grain trailers that open up, they launch. But instead of people coming out, instead it's drones. So it's the technology, the Trojan horse of the 21st century. Warfare remains pretty consistent despite the tools that change across time with the application of warfare.
One of the other things that we are seeing in battlefields like Ukraine is the high lethality of war. How are you helping to prepare cadets for the risk of high lethality?
Yeah, so when we think of, and lethality meaning not only from an offensive perspective, but also, the impacts of lethality on one's unit.
Yes.
Okay, and from I will say a mental, emotional component as our leaders, as they're invested into their organizations, their units, it comes back to the repetitions, ma'am, and simulation, and having an understanding of what an artillery attack on your unit position may have. And why you have to have. When we think about the basics, cover, concealment, camouflage, dispersion, I mean, some of these basics that have stood the test of time that you have to know, you have to train, and you have to implement in order to maintain survivability within this lethal battlefield.
I'm delighted to be hearing the sound of drones out there and not looking for cover or concealment, right. Which is usually a good thing to do in Ukraine if you hear that sound. Look, you have given us a really exciting picture of leadership in the future. When your cadets are battalion commanders all these years from now, what advice would you want to project forward to them as a seasoned person of 2025?
Well, I think it's really something that I've adhered to for 35 years. One, presence matters. All right. I mean, to lead organizations, you gotta be part of the organization. And you've got to connect with them. I would also say being positive, because positive leadership impacts everybody. Doing your best, which from a personal perspective, I'm certainly not the best, but in order to contribute to the team, you got to give your best, and everybody expects that. Which then leads to the last thing, which is being a good teammate, which is really about accountability across your organization. And that matters.
Well, thank you so much. General Gilland has done a terrific job chatting with us today, but also developing the future leaders of the United States Army. We're tremendously grateful for your service and for your very thoughtful leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kagan. I appreciate it. This is an honor.